My head hung over her casket. Eyes filled with tears of questions that were not worth asking. I looked at her stitched lips and her sealed eyes, and it was there that I realized that her face looked a lot like mine. Eyes that never gave me the chance of a glance, and their clothes probably told stories of my early childhood that no one would ever know. Lips that will never part to console the hurting child in me by simply saying, "Son, I love you." And it's something to look in the casket at the corpse of a woman that you never knew, but knowing that it's the same woman that birthed you, y'all. It's crazy, because now I'm mourning the loss of my mother while awaiting the birth of my firstborn child simultaneously. It's like I was standing in the middle of a conversation between death and life, trying to figure out what they were saying, hoping that they could explain this to me. And before darkness could even fill the voids of my identity, desperately I looked up at the preacher that was eulogizing the service, and then I looked within myself and I got nervous because I was still trying to figure out my purpose for even being there. After all, I didn't know the woman in the casket, and to be honest, I didn't even care because I lived my whole life as a castaway, shipwrecked on an island, deserted on Mother's Day, casted into the sea, forgotten by loved ones while holding on to deflated dreams like Tom Hanks of I Will, Son. And now I'm forced to adopt the identity of being identified as Stella's real son. Like today, my life just begun, and you see, they kept referring to me as her real son, like I didn't notice. So now I'm the real son, like my life before this was bogus. But we're supposed to be focused on reconstructing a relationship that to me seems hopeless. So yo, stop it. I never asked to be adopted. I never asked to feel unwanted or shift home just because you sold me. I was 18 months old. Was it too much for me to ask for you to hold me? Was it too complicated for you to know me? Tell me that you even feel connected to me. Then why was the name on my birth certificate left empty? I see you only give name to things that have meaning, things that are worth keeping. So am I mean for not grieving, or should we just pretend that the meaning of my life is just a means to an end? Is this what adoption is? Do you even understand how much pain your absence has left? Your ghost has haunted me well before your death. Growing up, I felt like a mere shadow of myself, always walking in darkness. Even when trying to be comforted by the light, I was always thinking about the image that formed me, wondering, do we even look alike? I searched for you harder than shadows casted at midnight. And at night, I even searched for you in my dreams. I would dream of happy reunions, the day that we would finally meet. I pictured that we would randomly bump into each other on the streets. We would look each other in the eyes, and there we would realize just how strong a mother and son's bond is. We would talk about our past and say, yo, we could get beyond this. And as we're reminiscing, I'll tell you about the many nights that I called and how you never responded. How I called out for you in Morse code with teardrops on cold floors, but it seemed that the dots and the dashes were too short of a signal to reach you. So I became disruptive in class, hoping that I would become someone that you just couldn't ignore. It seemed that I expressed anger anytime that I couldn't feel your love, and I'm surprised you wasn't shaken or moved by the blast, because my emotions were explosive. They were louder than bombs, and a spark of hope would come every time the teacher would ask, do you need me to call your mom? I was hoping that one day they would finally reach you. But those dreams have turned nightmare. And those cold floors have become home. And the home has become abandoned, swept clean, windows and doors boarded. I refuse to let anyone else in, for the fear that they will hurt me again. And listen, it took years. It took years for love to finally find me, to pull nails out of wood just to allow a ray of sunlight to shine in, to pull doors off of hinges just to give hope and love an entrance. And when Jesus finally found me, it took every word spoken to make these lame legs walk again, for this heart to beat again, for me to finally learn affection. God said adoption is not for the rejected, but for the chosen. He said, you, son, are Moses, the castaway that was casted into the river of the Nile, retrieved upstream by the daughter of the king, adopted and redeemed to set the captives free from the oppressor. And then he reminded me of Esther, the orphan, who, like Moses, proved that God was sovereign. He said, you are not forgotten, but yet you were called for this, so stand for righteousness. And if you perish, you perish. He told me to shoulder up my cross and to bear it, taking on the burden of freedom. He said, you think that you were the only one adopted. And then he reminded me of Jesus, the one who was fostered as a fetus, the one who saves, who gave us the spirit to emancipate us as slaves from within, evicting us from our home of sin so that we could fully enter in and worship the judge that declared our adoption and our sonship, into whom we all cry out, Abba, Father. But every now and then, I find myself kneeling down on those cold floors with those Morse code type tears flowing, Mama. But this time, it's only to give God glory for all that he has done in my life. My adoption proves that God's hand was on me even from the very beginning. Dear Mama, may you rest in peace, because your son has finally